Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. The day of reckoning is almost upon us. Sounds like the sort of thing a street preacher would say about Armageddon, but yep, the day of reckoning, as I record this, is only 4 days away. So, of course, let's talk about a few predictions. We have got Deontay Wilder, the inactive Deontay Wilder, facing what I consider to be a genuine threat from Joseph Parker. Now, I did a video last week about this, saying that I thought Parker was a legitimate foe, not really a cherry pick, not really someone who I thought was going to roll over, and someone that can certainly win this fight. Because a lot of people, as with the Joshua versus Wallin fight, are saying Parker, he hasn't really got much of a chance. He'll get clipped. This is an easy one for Wilder. And Wilder himself has said he'll get rid of Parker in 3 rounds or less. Well, I don't really need to go into their records, do I? Because we all know about what Deontay Wilder has achieved. We all know what Joseph Parker has achieved. And the thing that springs out, as many people have said before, including myself in my previous video, is the inactivity of Deontay Wilder, because he has had just under 3 minutes of fighting. That was against Robert Helenius since 2021, over 2 years ago, when he fought Tyson Fury for the third and final time. Now, we simply don't know whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, because at 38, which I think is what Wilder is, especially after you've taken a shellacking like he took against Fury, taking time out, an extended period, can be a good thing. It can be a good thing physically because your body repairs itself. You can get yourself checked out. And it can be a good thing mentally because it gives you a chance to reflect on what was, after all, a train wreck of a fight in which Wilder showed immense courage, immense fighting spirit. I mean, whatever you think about Deontay Wilder and his shortcomings, the guy is a fighting man. And he proved himself in that fight. He refused to lie down against a man who, in terms of natural weight, probably outweighs him by about 40 pounds, maybe, probably more. It was a tremendous battle, an arduous, grueling, sapping battle. But Wilder, to his credit, hung tough. And you've heard, going out on his shield. You've heard that phrase. You've heard the phrase, I've got to be carried out of the ring. That was the case with Deontay Wilder. He fought to the last breath. But early on, that fight was very, very interesting because it was the first time that Malik Scott was in charge of the ship, so to speak, captaining the ship or holding the reins, if you prefer another analogy. And Wilder, first of all, he came in way too heavy. And the excess of whatever it was, 25 pounds, probably a little bit less, maybe, I don't know. He put it onto his upper body and it showed. So those, what Tyson Fury calls chicken legs, were still as wiry as ever, but he had this bulk on his upper body. For a 12-round fight, for 36 minutes, carrying that extra bulk, it's an unnatural thing. He also put on weight for the second Fury fight. So I still to this day don't know what he was thinking. And the second thing that was noticeable in that fight, the third Fury fight, is that Wilder early on his tactics were so evident, it seemed so pronounced what he was trying to do. And this was obviously stuff that he'd worked on with Malik Scott. He was jabbing to the body. He was being very busy. He was, everything looked rehearsed. Nothing looked second nature. And that's simply because he didn't have enough time, not really, to get it down pat, to get it down where it's flowing, where it doesn't look forced, where it doesn't look rehearsed, where it looks like second nature. For anything to become second nature, you have to, again, as I said in a previous video when I talked about Joshua and Wallin, repetition, repetition, repetition. You do it again and again and again until you're not even thinking about doing it. It's like driving a car. You get in your car, you're going from A to B, you start the engine, off you drive, you're probably thinking about something else. You're You're almost subconsciously driving the car, and then when you get there, you don't really think about what you've just done. You just drove, right? With Wilder in the third Fury fight, tactically and in terms of what he was trying to do, it looked forced. And of course, once he became exhausted, which was as early as the third or fourth round, he then reverted to type, to what is his natural, not just physically, tactically what he does, which is jab and try and land that enormous cruise missile of a right hand. But he reverted to type in the sense that probably emotionally and certainly mentally, he thought, I'm just going to have to bomb this guy out. I'm knackered. I'm shagged. We got another, 8, 9 rounds to go. And this guy's coming on strong. And guess what happened? He twice floored Fury, right? There's so much to be said for doing what is natural, being your natural self. It's the old saying, be yourself, everyone else is taken. And Wilder and Joshua, who I've discussed before in a previous video, these are two guys who need to do that. I just think they need to do that. Yes, you can add bits and pieces to someone's natural game. You can refine it. Like I say, over time, with repetition, you can add things, add strings to the bow. But you must never ever force any fighter to fight in a manner, in a style, which doesn't feel natural to them. It's an absolute anathema to success. It really is. So, of course, the inactivity, again, like I say, it can be a good thing or it can work the other way, ring rust and so on and so forth. The Helenius fight meant nothing. I've heard, obviously, people are still saying that was a fixed fight. It wasn't. Some people just love a good conspiracy theory, and it's so much easier to think of some nonsensical theory than to, try and think logically and with a bit of reason. But let's talk a little bit now about Parker, because Parker himself has had trials and tribulations. He was knocked out by Joe Joyce, badly knocked out. And that was a fight where, early on, I was thinking as I was watching it, Joyce is just too much. There's too much pressure there. And Parker couldn't keep him off. And as early as the third round, I'm thinking Parker's going to be out of there in 2 or 3 rounds. In actual fact, he hung on to the 11th, and it had little pockets of success. I mean, Joyce was, on that day, the juggernaut. Zhilei Zhang may have cracked his chin and dealt with him almost with aplomb. But Parker just didn't have the physical strength or the power or the tools to do that. But he did hang tough until the 11th round. He came in heavy. Under Andy Lee. Andy Lee, being part of the Fury clan, seems to be of the opinion that fighters, anyone he trains who's a heavyweight, needs to come in big. It's not about getting yourself physically fit. It's about getting yourself fighting fit. And if you weigh more than is perhaps your natural weight, it doesn't actually matter. Well, with heavyweights, I mean, they are a different breed, obviously, because they don't have to make weight. But I still think there is an optimum weight, and that if you carry excess weight around, you're putting strain, obviously, on your organs, specifically your heart. You're putting strain on your ligaments, and you're draining your gas tank before you've even thrown a punch. So I've never understood why Parker comes in heavy. He had the 2 fights with Chisora under Andy Lee. The first one was very close. Some people think Chisora won it. I think Parker edged it, but it could have gone either way. It was a close fight. The second one, I mean, Parker did literally everything but stop Chisora. Chisora was sort of, was decamping in various corners, waving Parker in, and Parker, all right, it's difficult to get a guy out there who is purely defensive. Who has, shut up shop and is, in football terms, you'd say park the bus. But it was a little surprising that Chisora lasted the distance in that second fight. And Parker floored him several times, dominated him. It was almost like that was Del Boy's last stand. Maybe both those fights. Certainly the first one, where he did very well. But in terms of Parker's resiliency, I think when he is forced under pressure, he has shown guts. I don't think he lacks courage. A lot of people have said that he does, But I see it more a case of perhaps we should say lacking ambition, because he frequently, when he's expected to do well, when he's expected to just blow someone out of the water, when he's got a guy in there who's so obviously less talented, Parker tends to go through the motions, and he tends to be safety first. And it's very strange. Even when he was champion, even when he had that WBO belt, I mean, the Andy Ruiz fight, you could say Ruiz won that fight. You could certainly make a case for that. But he seems to fight down to the level of his opposition. He doesn't seem to. He doesn't seem to have that desire unless he's forced into a corner. And it's weird because the Joyce, even though he got knocked clean out by Joyce and beaten up, I kind of respected him more for that fight than for some of the other fights. Now, he beat Simon Keane recently, who is, a moderate heavyweight, no great shakes. And Keane's a decent fighter, but is he a world beater? No. But Parker kind of took him apart. It was all right, I don't want to be too hard on him. But let's take Jack Massey, who's really just a cruiserweight. He went the distance with Parker. Why is a British level cruiserweight going the distance with a former heavyweight champion? There's just some spark, maybe some spite missing from Joseph Parker, and there has been throughout his whole career. And you see him interviewed; he's a very cool guy. He's laid back and relaxes and so on and so forth. But in the ring, you've got to turn it on. Now against Deontay Wilder, even though I would say overall Parker has better natural skills, he's better schooled, the desire of Deontay Wilder and the fact that he does do things which are kind of overshadowed by the power, like he does when he uses it. When he uses it, he has a good jab. I mean, his feet are they get crossed sometimes, and his footwork ain't great. But he'll stick that jab in your face, and sometimes there isn't even a lot on it, but it is quite accurate, and it's certainly accurate enough to set up the right hand. He does set up. He doesn't just go out flailing. He will set up the big right hand, the big cruise missile, with the jab. So there is some thought that goes into his work. Okay, can Parker survive enough rounds to get over the initial storm? Can he sample the power without going on the floor? Because at some point I can see him getting hit. Can he implement his own game plan, which I assume will be to maybe stick and move a bit to start with, and then maybe try to gradually ease his way in with the power and the pressure? You see, you could make an argument that Parker's really got to try and surprise Wilder, that he's got to jump on him early and gamble and start landing big punches from the off, just to say to Wilder, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. But Christ, that's a dangerous game to play, a very dangerous game. I mean, someone like Fury is so much bigger than Wilder. And even though he, over the first few rounds of their third fight, he put Wilder under a lot of pressure and knackered Wilder out, Wilder was still able to floor Fury. Now, you could also make an argument that Joseph Parker's got a better chin than Tyson Fury, because when Fury's hit, he goes on the floor. I mean, Ngannou had him on the floor. When he's hit cleanly, he hits the floor. With Parker, it took one almighty left hook from Joyce to put him flat out. And that was in the 11th round when he was exhausted and, there'd been a lot of erosion throughout the fight. Do I see Parker being able to avoid Wilder's ultimate weapon, his atom bomb? In all honesty, no, I don't. No. I think Parker, I don't think he'll go out early. I don't think it will be the 3 rounds. I think Wilder will take a little time to find his mojo, to get his rhythm going. I think Parker might win some early rounds. Maybe he'll be, 3-2 or 4-1 up after 5, or 4-2 after 6, something like that. But I just see Wilder eventually catching him. Eventually, that desire, that fighting spirit, I can see him landing that right hand. Now, We don't know how much that third Fury fight, well, actually both the two fights 2 and 3 with Fury, we don't know how much they took out of Deontay Wilder. He could come in at 38 and look shot. We don't know. This is the intangible. This is the big $1 million question for Deontay Wilder. Does he still have that ability to last the entire duration of a tough fight and still give what we've seen him give before? The flip side of that is Joseph Parker the man to ask those questions? Is he going to jump on Fury? Is he going to force him to use up energy? What weight is Wilder going to come in at? I think all these are valid questions, and I wouldn't rule out Parker as putting off a surprise. I really wouldn't. But I can't get past the thought that Wilder at some point will land that big right hand and will put Parker on the floor. Now, Parker might get up, but over the course of a whole fight, I'm going to go with what my gut's telling me. And I could be wrong. I can see ways in which Parker can survive the onslaught, come on strong, and either stop Wilder late or win on points. I mean, if it goes the distance, you've then got the issue of the cards. Are they going to be fair? Because Joshua versus Wilder has just about is a done deal. So is Parker going to get a fair crack of the whip with the cards? I don't think the cards will be necessary, if I'm being honest. I think Wilder will eventually land the big right hand, and I think he'll probably stop Joseph Parker in about 8 or 9 rounds. But I don't say that with any great confidence. I can see several scenarios in this fight, but I'm going to make the presumption that Wilder has got something left, that he hasn't been destroyed, turned into an old man, turned into a wreck by those 2 Fury beatings. And even though Parker has been more active, far more active than Wilder, he was knocked out by Joyce, and that is the type of beating again that will take years off your career. He's the younger man, but at the same time, I just feel that Wilder's going to land and is going to get rid of Parker. So I'll go for a Deontay Wilder knockout in about 8 or 9 rounds. That's sort of, last third of the fight. And I think this will be more exciting than people are expecting it to be. I think this, whereas with Joshua and Wallin, I think it will be not such a great spectacle. I think this one will be worth remembering. I think so, yeah. All right, what do you think? Leave your comments below. You may disagree with me. So I'll probably wake up in the morning and disagree with me. That's the way it goes. But the day of reckoning, brothers and sisters, is almost upon us. What do you think? Who's going to win this one? Comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Please do that. And please hit the like button. And spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Much love to all of you. Take care of yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye for now.